Hi, this is Suzanne in Ohio. Well, good morning from another beautiful fall day here in Ohio. The leaves are all down now, but it's beautiful and sunny and just gorgeous here. All right, my last video I showed some things I called fabric baskets, and I had some comments, and one person in particular asked to know how I made my mushrooms. Now, the reason she did was I was showing this fabric basket that's in process. And I just decorated this fabric basket with some of my mushroom appliques that I made myself. And so you can see how I've incorporated them on the side of my basket. And I'm in the process of embellishing with some eyelash yarn. And then there's going to be glass beads sewn in just different particular places on that. So that's what sparked the question. And so here I'm going to attempt to do my kind of a little tutorial to show you how I make these appliques. Now I've made several different things as appliques, so I'm going to show you those also, not just the mushrooms. And there's 2 or 3 different approaches to these things. So if you're interested in embellishments or fabric art of any kind, you might find this interesting. So here's some of the fabric mushrooms that I have prepared. And look at this bag. I'm telling you, when I got started on mushrooms, I just didn't know when to quit. I had come by some batiks. Now, a few of them I bought, but a lot of them were given to me, and they were just such an odd kind of batik that I probably didn't want to use them in a quilt. So, for instance, this one. This piece of fabric had like an ombre effect, and it went from greens to blues to yellows to whatever, and all these polka dotty looking things all over it. So you can see why I chose that fabric. Now in this case, with these mushrooms that I made a couple years ago, it's all batiks, the top and the bottoms. But I'm going to show you some other methods to use too. Okay, so what is an applique? It is something that's already put together that you can stitch or glue or wonder under or web fuse onto your project. Now, when I made these appliques, I went ahead and did the free motion sewing. But I don't always do that. I wait until I want to apply it to my item and then I free motion. That way I'm putting the detail on the applique and adhering it to the surface where I want it on all in one. But these are already sewn, and then I cut them out, and that is an important point right there. So I'm going to show you how this process goes. Now please bear with me. I'm not a professional. And I don't do many step-by-step tutorials because I don't really have a proper easy setup to do it, but I'm going to try. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is show you some other appliques that I've made. Hope that will spark some ideas, because this is a technique that you can use on many things. All right, so we'll lay those mushrooms aside, and then I'm going to show you some things like this. All right, so these are appliques that I made using my own images from my watercolors. Well, you don't have to have your own image. You can use a copyright-free image, and you can scan it, make a file, and then print it out on your printer onto fabric. Now, I have done it 2 or 3 different ways. I have used already prepared paper, or I have prepared my own. And at this stage of the game, it's just easier if I want to do that, I can use already prepared paper. But let me show you how this started out. For those of you that do your own artwork or would like to give it a try, when I do watercolor images, I just do them like individuals. So there is, I'm not trying to paint a painting. I'm just trying to paint objects. And I am a very poor painter. It's not professional by any means. But after you scan it, print it out, and then thread sketch it, or if you want to use it in some other way, you can put your black outlines and enhance the drawing with micron pens. Okay, there's a watercolor, this coral, an egg, and here is the original watercolor for the watering can. Nothing great, but it suffices. And then after I scan this, I can resize it and print it off onto fabric any size that I want. So that just gives you an idea right there. So let's put these original watercolors away. And keep in mind what I said, you can use any image that's copyright free. If you have an artist friend or you can do it yourself, it doesn't have to be elaborate. And then you have your own image and you don't have to worry about copyrights. Okay, so I have those appliques and I recently used them, some of these, on a version of one of those fabric baskets. And let's see, I've got other ones. Bear with me here. I've got leaves. Now, I hand painted these leaves onto fabric. These were fabric. These are fabric. I used acrylic, really watered down, and I painted it right on the fabric. And I'll just show you a few. Leaf through them. Here, leaf through them. Haha. And I can do many things with these. I can scan them off and print them on paper to be used for, you know, in my journals. Or I can use these little appliques, and then I can take it a step further. Let's say I have a project and I don't really have the right shade of leaf. Like some of these leaves didn't end up as bright red as I wanted. So I could easily add extra color on top of them. I could take a bright red ink tints and add some color on top of this, or I could do a bright red colored pencil. You can use colored pencil on fabric or crayon. Did you know you can color on fabric with crayon? So some of these leaves need some more contrast and they need some more touches of red. And even this green, I might tone this green back a little bit. It's more of a chartreusey, and I might tone it down to more of a hunter green or something like that. All right, I'm just telling you all these little secrets, hopefully to get you thinking. All right, now if I say anything that you're interested in, let me know, and perhaps I can do a tutorial narrowed down to just what technique you want to see. All right, I did show this crow on one of my fabric baskets. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it below, and go back and watch the video that's called Fabric Baskets. But this is how the crow started out. I had painted him, outlined him with a white gel pen, and then used a light gray paint and just barely gave him some shadowing. And he's ready to be sewn onto something. And what I would do is lay him down where I want him, free motion sew all around, even putting my thread sketches in to try to enhance his feathers and his wing pattern. And then after he's sewn on the surface, I use these teeny tiny little real sharp scissors, and I very carefully cut around the edge of him. It can be done, and it's just really probably the best way to do it, because then I can get him on there perfectly. I don't have to worry about retracing the thread. See, like on this one, I would have to retrace pretty much over top of the threads sketching that I already did. But this is my preferred way, if possible, to make the image, leave him on the foundations, lay him down, thread sketch, free motion sewing over top, and then cut around the edge. Okay, that gives you some idea how that crow was done. And then I have a collection of pumpkins and pumpkin leaves. And these are already cut out, but I want to show you also what they look like before you cut them out. For the project I was doing at the time I made these, I went ahead and cut them all out. So I have many variations of pumpkins, like that's more of a gourd type, and there's a handsome great big pumpkin. Now many of these I've already scanned and they're files in my computer, and I print them out on paper and use them in my journals. So everything can be used for more than one thing. I have encouraged in lots of past videos, don't let your artwork leave your hands until you have copied it and scanned it and made a file, because you have no idea what might be coming up and what you can use it for. And again, these were painted directly on fabric with acrylics. And you can see the painting is not, what should I say, realistic. It's really splotches of color. It's the thread sketching that tells your brain, oh, this is a leaf, you know, and then you automatically have variations of tones that really carry your subject matter to the next level. So I have a whole stack, and I love blue pumpkins, so I even have some blue ones. And I will probably take a couple of these blue ones and add white acrylic on top of it, just to take it more into that venue. Or so I have variation in colors. If I go to put a little collage together, I'll want different colors of pumpkins probably. All right, so that's enough of the pumpkins, and you can see they're already cut out, but I could have left them whole, and I'm going to try to find those, left them in their beginning stages. I'm going to try to find those here. I know I brought them out. Hold on, I got them. This is what the pumpkins and the leaves look like before I do this. Now this is a faded looking one, very soft watercolory look. You can see, you know, the stem is up here, and here's the shape of the pumpkin. And there's no specific line that I have to follow exactly. But I can begin to thread sketch this and take this into the next level. Now, if I want to thread sketch it before I cut it out, for some reason, fine. Otherwise, I will lay it right on my piece where I want it to be adhered, and then I'll thread sketch the two of them together. Now, if you're unsure where to sew, what you can do is use one of those disappearing pins and go ahead and put your marks on here to follow. And then once it's sewn on, you can iron it, and those pen marks will disappear. Here's a page of leaves, and these are in beautiful tones, and you can see where I had the acrylic watered down so thin that it did what's called an edging there. And I will sew thread sketch these three into pumpkin leaves. Here's another page of them with more red tones on them. So anybody can do this. It's a very splotchy watercolory effect, and it just turns out so beautiful. So look up here. I've got two small yellow ones. I've got a big yellowy greeny. I've got that one, and that one. And then here's a page with yellows. Now you can plainly see what I do. I use all my scraps, and I iron them on that iron-on interfacing, which I'm going to talk to you about. This is a piece of thin iron-on interfacing with the sticky side up. And after I paint this, I just want to iron it onto this to give it some foundation. And then I don't want to have to worry about the sticky getting on my iron, so I use parchment paper. Just lay it down over top, iron right over it, and when you're using parchment paper, you've got to iron longer than you think, so the heat can get through the paper. And then once the painted fabric is adhered to the interfacing, then I can just pull my parchment paper away. So that's the process there if you're doing a handmade image. But let's go back to just cutting out your image from fabric. So you can see I have a whole package here of ivy leaves. I'll just take out a couple of them. And this is what these have looked like before I thread sketched them. Now, I have already cut these out without thread sketching them, and that was for a specific reason. So let's ignore that. Let's go back to a main piece here. So you can see I cut my ivy leaves. First I drew my design. I just go online and look at natural plant material and get the shape I want. And there's two different kinds of ivy here. Boston ivy and English ivy. One has a very long pointy leaf and the other one is more, well, you can see fatter with shorter points on it. So I chose, in this case, I was working with the Appliques, and I just made all of these, and I have left them just like this because what I would do is cut, not too close though. You can see this one's separate and this one is separate, but here is my main design. And I would lay that, cut that out loosely, and lay that down and then begin to thread sketch. When I thread sketch, I like to start with the piece that's in the background, because I would start right here and thread sketch along here, blah, 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 and then put the veins in and then move over here. And then I have to do that little piece separate. When you get it all done, if you want it to be a loose applique, already thread sketched, that's fine. If you want to adhere it to a surface, that's fine too. Now, if you're going to use a pre-made, the one that's already thread sketched like this, the question is, okay, how do I get it on my surface as part of my composition? Two ways. You can adhere it down, and you can use things like Fabri-Tac. If it's not going to be washed or manhandled, if it's just for looks, if it's something on a wall hanging or something like that, you could just glue it. But if you want to make sure it's really going to stay, I would thread sketch again right over top of the outline. Now, if I'm compiling something, several pieces on a front, let's just say we're going to do this and this. Oh, let's do this and this. Let's say I'm going to make a composition here. All right. I'm going to lay that one down sideways, and then I want a leaf coming out here. Maybe I want it overlapped, and then maybe I want some little leaves up here, because in my mind I think, well, I'm going to I'm going to put some twirly vines on there with some yarn or fabric or something like that. So I just get the placement that I want, for instance, like that. And then what I will do is use some Wonder Under. I call it Wonder Under. I don't always use Wonder Under brand. I use, let me see if I brought any out here to show you. It's just Web Fuse. It's that stuff that I did not bring it, darn. It looks like mesh, and I'll just put little pieces, enough to hold it in place until I get it. Then I can pick it up all as one piece and put it on my surface and then begin to thread sketch. Now, if you don't have Wonder Under, or what is typically just web fuse, it is nothing but pure glue uh, in kind of a meshy see-through, and then you iron it, and you have to really iron in order to get it to melt. You have to get some real heat in there in between all these layers of fabric. Or you can use school glue. Now, school glue is washable. And some research I did years ago told me that school glue is basically cornstarch, with some other things in it too, but it's washable because it will dissolve in water. And I use it a lot in quilting. But what you can do here is you can put just a dab of little dots of school glue under those, and then press them with an iron to dry the school glue really quickly, and then you can still have your composition intact and pick it up and lay it onto your surface wherever you want to adhere it. So there's that idea. Now I'm just going to show you some other appliques that I've made. This is a seashore piece. I have 3 sets of these. My intention was to make some very large tote baskets for the seashore ocean. In this case, these appliques I painted. I hand painted them. I looked up this seagull. Want to make sure I got him anatomically correct. And then I just painted it on, I think in this case it was white muslin or almost white. Something, maybe it was canvas. It doesn't much matter. So they're hand painted, and then I loosely cut them out, laid them right on this surface, and then thread sketched all the way around. And I don't even know, but you can't really see that on the camera. But I'll show you a couple of those. And don't tell me you can't draw or paint. All you have to do is go online and find a photograph that's free and print it off, make it as large or small as you want it, and just look at the color pattern and put some splotches of paint on there. So that's what I did with these. I'm not that familiar with seagulls. So okay, I have some more of those sets, but you don't need to see those. That is just simply how that part is done. Here's some other appliques that I've made. And these are separate because I made these out of batik too. And my intention was, again, another seashore basket. And I really enjoyed doing this because of the colors, but then I thought, on some following projects, I just simply painted my own because all this cutting and blah, 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 that was very time consuming. But there you have it, 2 seashore appliques, and you can see the backside where I've done my thread sketching in order to enhance the lines and carry out the image. And I lived in Daytona Beach in Jacksonville, Florida for a while. And when I went to the ocean one day, I found a starfish that was bright, bright, bright purple. And he had bright, bright oranges on the edge. So that was just my commemorative to that. Okay, let me tell you another way you can come up with an applique. I find lots of stuff at my thrift store. See, 25 cents. And these were 2 factory-produced prints, seashore related. And for 25 cents, in this case a total of 50 cents, oh, why wouldn't I buy them and see if I have a project coming along? Now, of course, you can use this whole thing as an applique and mount it on something. But also, I can cut this apart. And then I have 2 seahorses and some seaweed, and I can place them anywhere I want. So I can turn this print into an applique. This one would be a little harder, but it could be done. You could cut that ship out and make him an applique. So just to give you an idea of what to keep your eye open for at the thrift store. All right. Okay, let's get on with, okay, bear with me, please. Told you I don't have a proper setup, but I did bring some things out so that we can cut out an applique right from the start. And I want to do that with you. So, get some of these things out of the way. And I brought some things out and some different methods to show you what could be done. All right, so in this case, I don't have batiks. I just have scraps. Now, we've all got scraps, okay? So, what we can do, show you two different things. I have some of that iron-on interfacing. And you can use a Pellon type brand, which is non-woven, but I particularly like the woven because it has a little bit more give to it. And this is a very thin piece of cotton with some adhesive on the back side. Your adhesive is the shiny side. So there's a little piece of that. Now I can't iron it smooth because the glue will stick to something. But I'm going to have a whole bag of those scraps here. See? I just keep every little piece of everything. And then I can use it. Okay, you always find a place to use scraps. So let me make sure if I can get my camera backed out so you can see a little bit more. There I go. Wasn't responding. All right. Depending on my project, I have to decide what method do I want. I can just simply decide what color I want my mushrooms, and then I will get an idea. For instance, this one, and this could be the stem, or the green could be the stem. So let's just go for it. I also brought pieces of muslin. That makes a fabulous backing, and these are already have heat and bond light on them. You can see the shiny side. I was using these for another project, but there they were, so I thought, oh good, that'll show another method. All right, so your design for your mushroom. Now, if you need help with your shapes and designs, just go to Google and Google wild mushrooms, and you'll see all kind of photographs, and you can sketch yourself out a simple little drawing. And let's just do that. And I just have little drawings laying around just to give me ideas. So let's say we want a humpy little mushroom here, and we don't want any of the fins to show underneath, so we're just simply going to sketch it out like that. And do we want him to have a tall, skinny stem or a plump little fat one? And let's just do something in the middle. So something like that. Now, if you need to, you can trace that design on the back of your heat and bond light and cut it out, and that's a whole different method. But I'm going to freehand these. So all I want to do is to get my fabric down on this. So let me show you what I do sometimes. So let's say this is the top of my mushroom, and I'm just going to cut off a little piece. I'm real careful about wasting fabric, but I can freehand this, and I know I want, let's look again, I want the bottom kind of curved, all right? So I can just curve that line, that cut line, and I'm not going to cut the rest of it. I am going to I'll be ironing the whole thing on there, because then I can cut it out together, and that saves me having to really be precise. And now I need a stem, don't I? I need something like this. So I can just, first I cut myself out a piece of fabric that's just similar, and then all I'm going to do is tuck this right underneath, right here. So you can easily see how my top would be here, my bottom would be here. Now I'm making life easy on myself because I don't want to have to keep following precise lines over and over again. All right, so let's get this one ironed on. Now I've got an iron right over here, right off of the camera. So give me a second to iron this on. And I'm going to use my parchment paper, release paper, if you have it. You can use that too. And I'm going to iron. And that way I'm not wasting my interfacing, and I'm wasting very little fabric. And give me a second. Now I told you have to have a lot of heat, and you have to iron longer than you think in order to get it to adhere, because your heat has to go through all those layers. So there, now my fabric, other than right here, is adhered to the back. Now if I want to, if I need to, I can use a disappearing pin. They come all colors, black, red, purple, green, but in this case, so you can see it, I'm just going to use this ballpoint pen, and I'm just going to give, if you need to do that, to give that mushroom some shape. And that's what you could do. I don't very often do that. So let's turn this around and let's just simply cut out our mushroom. And so I'm just going to start at the top here because it's easy. And then I'm going to come down, cut down. And if I want to reshape this a little bit, I can. And then I'm going to come over into the green. Oh, I'm so sorry, I was off camera. Come over into the green and cut the stem. And I want a little wibbly wobbly something at the bottom of my mushroom. I don't want it to look too squarish. So I come right back up here to the edge of the mushroom, and maybe I'll curve it up just a little bit more. And then maybe I will just wobble my scissors a little bit, enough to give it a more organic shape. And there is our mushroom. How about that? Okay, now the two pieces are adhered to the interfacing. They're not necessarily adhered to each other, but it doesn't matter, because when you thread sketch around that, then they are going to be one piece. Now you can thread sketch, you could have thread sketched before you cut it out, or you can thread sketch now, or you can thread sketch after you lay it on your background. That is all up to you. So the more thread sketching you do on this and the more enhancement you do, the cuter it would be. So let me give you, hey, I've got something real close. Hold on, and I'll just get a piece and show you. Give me a second. Okay, my scrap of lace is laying real close, so I just grabbed that because this would be a beautiful use of some scrappy laces. And then that mushroom has a little skirt. You can add some torn lace or something very thin up here. You can do anything you want. There is no limit in this world. And it can be your style and your way. All right, shall we make one more? Let's do it on, this muslin that has, I'm going to cut a small piece that already has a heat and bond light. Now, heat and bond light and interfacing are both just glues, but you choose according to what your project is going to be. Heat and Bond Light tends to make your whole finished applique feel a little thicker and stiffer, but lightweight interfacing does not. So let me see if this will come off here. Like I said, I was using it for another project. There we go. And so I'm putting the Heat and Bond Light facing up. So muslin has become my backing, which is thin and flexible, and that works good for me. So let's do something. I was looking for some modern fabric, but you know, lightweight, cutesy things. But I like this black, and I like all these colors in it. So let's do a little mushroom to that effect. So here's the space I'm working in. So let's just take a small piece of that, and I can put it right down there. And then let's see. I know I had one that would have, oh yes. I've got a piece of greens, chartreusey greens that match that, although nothing has to match. This is your creativity and the way you want to do it. So I can put that right there. And you can you see your mushroom yet? All we have to do is cut the shape for the top and the stem, and then we have a mushroom. All right. So let me iron this. Hold on just a minute. I'll use this release paper and put it right back on top there. Now you might be asking yourself, why do you have to have a backing? Well, it holds everything in place, and it gives it a little bit more stability. I wouldn't use anything any thicker. I've tried it in the past, and then it just ends up too bulky for what I want to do. If I get this applique done and I want it to look puffy, I just put a little piece of felt or quilt padding under it. So my release paper peels right back off of there, and see, I still have Heat and Bond Light over here on these edges. So let's put a skirt on this mushroom. Some mushrooms, when you look at the stems, you'll notice they have a skirt on them. So let's just sketch this a little bit. Am I in camera? Yeah. And this has, I call them skirts. I don't know for sure what they are, what they're supposed to be called. And we're going to free motion cut out that shape. So let's do the stem first. I'm going to cut up this way. Now my pin is not disappearing, so I'll have to be sure and cover that up somehow. But you're going to use a disappearing pin to put your shapes in there. So let's cut up this way, and then let's give this mushroom a tiny little umbrella shape. And we'll come back down, cut over to the stem, put the skirt on there, and then I just want to give it some organic shape at the bottom. Okay, there we go. How about that? All right, let me bring you down a little closer. I'm bad about watching where I'm at. I'm sorry. So here's the two that we've cut out today. And I went ahead and cut them out to show you how that can be done. If you want to just simply take this whole piece before it was cut, lay it on your project, then you have to have your design marked out and you free motion around that, and then you're going to cut all the excess away. All right, let me look here. Okay, I'm trying to spark ideas for you. And let's just say you're not sure what you're going to do with them. So we've got our two mushrooms here, and what I brought out was some jelly prints that I had made a couple years ago, and I use these for backgrounds. I used organic material, weeds and flowers and leaves and things that were in the yard. So it already has the color, because on my jelly plate I put blue and green and then into darker green. And I just put my plant material down there, and this is my negative print. And so the first thing I did was pat some other fabric on top of that, so I got actually the detail, the plant material. And then when that was done, I got a negative print. So this could easily be a background. So could this one, the one with pine needles, actually fir needles, and this one. And this was a little sprig of the redbud, and who knows what that was. I don't remember. But let's see what happens when we lay our mushrooms on there. Oh, and getting cute and cuter. All right. So this could be the beginning of a fabric collage. Now, if you want more of your plant material to show, make your mushrooms smaller, position them where you're not interfering with so much of the background. And then before you even do that, if you want to, go in here to your negative spaces and put some painterly sketching on there with your micron pen. Let's say you plan to outline your mushrooms in black or a dark green, then do some little art, like you're drawing around and putting the veins in these leaves and things like that before you even start. So that gives another layer to your background, and then you can adhere your mushrooms. You can sew, and if you want to, you could even apply some pieces of Wonder under there, or you could cover the whole back with Heat and Bond Light and then iron them on before you thread sketch. I don't find that necessary. I just hold these in place, or just one teeny little smidge of Wonder Under to hold it where I want it until I get it thread sketched. Okay, so there you have it. That's how I make my mushrooms, but there's several versions, and I hope this inspires some creativity for you today. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment. I would just love to see if you're interested. And if you make something, please get a hold of me one way or another. You can convo me through my Etsy site, or you can leave a comment here under the video and I will find it. We'll get in touch, email or something. I want to see what you're creating. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.